36 years ago today, the People's Liberation Army killed or wounded thousands of pro-democracy Chinese protesters in Tiananmen Square. Communist China's attacks on freedom are not only existential threats to America and the rest of the world, but are a tragic reality for their own people. To this day, the communists censor any mention of attacks in China, in media and across their online platforms, including AI platforms like DeepSeek. Just go use DeepSeek, plug in Tiananmen Square, and see what you get. We remember the lost lives, repression suffered, and the sacrifices made in the Chinese struggle for freedom. I participated in the Shangri-La Dialogue Friday and Saturday of last week in Singapore with Democrat Senator Tammy Duckworth. The Shangri-La Dialogue is an annual conference where world leaders meet to discuss defense policy and national security in the Indo-Pacific. Now, why does this matter to Nebraskans? The Indo-Pacific is critical to our peace and prosperity. Communist China's aggression has threatened that. Some of our largest trade partners are Japan and South Korea. Singapore hosts over 6,000 American companies that are doing business in Asia. And this includes ADM, which has 9 facilities and processing plants in Nebraska. $5.3 trillion worth of trade flows through the South China Sea. This makes up about 21% of all global trade. If global trade in the region is disrupted by Communist China's aggression, Nebraskans would feel it in their pocketbooks. We would not be able to export our agricultural products. We would also not be able to import products, which would drive up prices. At the conference, the topic that was top of mind for everyone was the increasing aggression from Communist China. Communist China has been infringing upon economic zones of countries other than just Taiwan and attacking them using cyber networks. Dictator Xi Jinping has told his military to be ready to seize Taiwan by 2027. All these actions threaten peace and stability across the Indo-Pacific. Both the Trump and Biden administrations have declared Communist China our foremost geopolitical threat. Communist China is the very greatest threat to our very way of life. Communist China is actively threatening our rules-based system that we've had in place for over 80 years and that has kept the peace. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth's speech at the conference was heralded as one of the most detailed accounts of the Indo-Pacific by a Secretary of Defense in years. He said that America is proud to be back in the Indo-Pacific. America and our interests are here to stay. I was happy to see the extent of America's presence at the conference. Unlike Communist China, we sent our top security and defense officials. In addition to Secretary Hegseth, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard attended. So did Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Dan Kane. Admiral Sam Paparo, the Indo-PACOM commander in charge of the region, also spoke of the importance in the Indo-Pacific. The U.S. Congress was represented by a bipartisan bicameral delegation from the House and Senate. Countries throughout the region know that Communist China is an inconsistent trading partner and a bad neighbor. While Beijing focuses on coercing its neighbors, we are working with our regional partners to deepen relationships. What we heard from America's friends and partners in the Indo-Pacific is that they want America there. They want to have a renewed emphasis on strengthening their defense capabilities as well. In the Senate, I am working with my colleagues to make sure we are ready for Xi Jinping's aggression. We are making all aspects of our government ready to respond to Beijing's malign influence and their illegal, coercive, deceptive, and aggressive behavior. We are playing a decisive role in supporting our Indo-Pacific allies and partners. At the same time, we are complicating Xi Jinping's plan to take Taiwan through force or coercion. This trip with Senator Duckworth follows an April trip I took to Taiwan and the Philippines with Senator Chris Coons and Ted Budd. These trips highlight the threat posed by Communist China and make it clear, to win the fight against Communist China, we must help our regional partners as they help us. What we see in our trips are not weak partners asking for shelter or protection. They are force multipliers for our deterrence. That's why I've been leading legislation like the Porcupine Act, which would make it easier for Taiwan to buy American weapons and supplies. I'm also a co-sponsor of the Counter Act, which would address the threats of Communist China's military bases across the globe. I'm leading action to make sure America is ready to counter the communist and their communist threat to our way of life.